Raise it up.
Chat Pro.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the pregame show on day 3 of the $1 Million Cash Game. My name is Veronica. I will be hosting today's event and doing sideline reporting. With me is the commentator who killed it on day 1 of the $1 Million Cash Game.
Thank you.
The famous and infamous Christian Soto.
Sure. I think, the players did all the work. They made it look easy for me.
I don't know. Anytime you said, it's the doom zoom, no one gets away from the doom zoom, I was like, oh, Christian, you're in your element.
My best line was when I had to do the cologne ad.
I remember that. I was quoting you.
And I was like, get yourself some It's Time, you dirty ass people coming to the casino smelling like shit. Get you some It's Time.
It's Time.
I'm like, oh man.
But you know it's not a lie.
No, it's not a lie. It's not a lie. But I think only Hustler would allow me to read an ad like that.
Well, that's what I would say about Hustler Casino Live is like, everything's against the grain. We're not here to pander to the typical poker community.
Yeah, it's like, I'm pretty sure if I worked at WSOP, they would be like, you can't do that. What is wrong with you?
Thank goodness we're not in WSOP because they only have piddly little $1,000 buy-ins today. Actually, they have a 25K heads up. But you know what? We have a $1 Million Cash Game, and that's actually a little bit better. But yesterday's game, we shall reflect back to yesterday's game. Christian,
yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah, look, I mean, you have 4 days of $1 million buy-ins. One of the days is probably not going to be as good, as the other days. Players are tired. It's day 2 of they've been playing, wasted a lot of energy. Texas Mike had some health, that he had to take care of, and he has to put that as priority. But he's a big facilitator of the action in the game, right? So when you lose Texas Mike, as well as the other players are tired from all the play last day, things are going to slow down, right? Unfortunately, Peter, wanted to exit a little early. He had some commitments. That doesn't help the game. And then it's like, we lose Texas Mike. Peter wants to leave a little early. It's just like, you just suck the air right out of the room.
Well, the big thing with Peter, it wasn't just Peter leaving early. It's Peter leaving early, up $1 million, and taking $2 million off the table.
Yeah, as well as he won $1 million the day before. So in reality, these guys are absolutely buried. Think about it. Mike won as well, and he's not here. So now Peter also leaves with the profit, and these guys are all buried. And it's like, I was telling Doug yesterday, I was like, man, I felt so bad for you because it's like you flew in and it's like, you walked into an environment that it's like, oh man, I wish I played day 1, instead. But things happen. And I felt for the fans and the chat pros and stuff, because it's like, they're like, oh, we're on a rocket ship, right? And it's like, okay, but. So yeah, yesterday was, not the product that we want to put out all the time, but we still have another 2 days. It's not as if it's gonna just stop there.
I want to talk about Doug or anyone else who just played 1 day. The difficult thing is, Ryan has certain lineups set up.
Yeah.
And Doug was only supposed to play 1 day. Anyone who's playing 1 day, if you get buried, it's not like a 5-10 game where you can go back home and go make it up, no problem.
Yeah.
There's literally no games like this running. There's no games where you're playing for $1 million.
Yeah. And even for Doug, because if anyone in the country can get games close to this, it might be Doug, right? With his games, that run on weekends, maybe once a month or whatever, at the lodge. I don't know the exact schedule, but there are some big games there sometimes. And even he is like, damn, Right. So it's like, imagine anybody else. It's right. Yeah, it felt a little bad, for his situation there. But I heard he hasn't left town. so
we're being very optimistic. I'd love to see him back.
So you know, he's gonna hang out at the beach. You know, maybe he gets a phone call, maybe he doesn't. But like,
so he has some fan favorite equity. You know, so there's different types of equity if you want to be invited to these kinds of games.
For sure.
You either have to be a really fun action player, or you have to be a fan favorite that really is demanding you back.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree. Or you have to have really good friends.
And run like God. Speaking of running like God, Peter.
Yeah, I mean, wow, what a you know.
What a stunt run, like I've literally never seen before.
Yeah, listen, what a last 48 hours for him. Like, it's literally been, he could do no wrong. It somehow, all favorable situations, you know, it's like, it's the dream, right? You show up to the biggest game of the year, and absolutely everything goes your way. Doesn't matter how good Tom Dwan is, doesn't matter how good Action Dan is, doesn't matter who's good. The dealer is just bang, bang. Like
every river.
Anything the man needs, he gets. We all want to aspire to be this person.
Crazy, this guy comes out of nowhere, doesn't speak a lick of English besides, sorry, I leave. And then like crushes the biggest player in the world, Tom Dwan. And everyone else at the table. But Tom is one of those legendary players that everyone strives to be like. Everyone watched him come up in high-stakes poker, and he's the best of the best. And to be able to just crush him, cripple the man 2 days in a row, and then be like, oh, sorry, I leave, like, is insane to all of us.
Yeah. I mean, Tom Dwan, so this is funny, right? The last 48 hours for Tom Dwan are the complete opposite of the 48 hours to Peter.
Right.
It's like, Peter's, like, it is night and day what's happening between these two players. And it's like, you know, if there were betting lines in the beginning of this 4 days, it's like,
Peter would have been plus 650.
Peter's a black horse. Peter's not the one that everyone would have been betting on. Everyone betting, you know, Dwan, betting Doug Polk, Dan, etc. You know, those were the favorites, but it's been all Mike, it's been all Peter. And everyone else is just done.
Some Steve, too.
Yeah, Steve as well. Steve the father. Absolute.
Blessings to you, my children, Steve the father.
Yeah.
He will be taking confessions before the show starts.
So it's like, you know, Steve the father is actually like a main character of the show. How? How did this happen? I don't know how it happened, but Steve the father. Steve the father is a main character here.
But what were your expectations on Steve?
You know, he was just gonna be a little fly on the wall, and like, you know, Steve the father was gonna, you know, he was gonna be involved, but like most of the, you know, talking and big pots weren't really gonna be around Steve the father, but. Steve the father he's secretly a main character. Like, I don't know, I just didn't expect it. Good for Steve.
He's Peter Parker.
He's not Peter Parker. Peter Parker is Peter. Yeah, I'm still figuring out for tomorrow. If Peter's back for tomorrow, I'm not sure really.
I feel like Peter should be called the assassin.
I was thinking about Pusha Pete. I was thinking about Pusha Pete. I was like, maybe that's the one. I'm still thinking about
Pumpkin Eater seems ironically understated.
Pumpkin Eater just feels erotic in some weird, nasty way. Like, I really.
Where's your mind
like,
going?
I just don't want to put that one out there.
Thought anything erotic about pumpkins, so.
Yeah, but Pumpkin Eater just feels like it's not good. You know, there's Pusha Pete feels all right. You know. I'm gonna stick to Pusha.
I'm gonna go Pete the Assassin. I like
Pete
that
the
one.
Assassin. Yeah. Especially yesterday.
Or is Pete the Sniper?
No, because Sniper has like a derogatory sort of thing in poker where like it's like your Sniper is not like a good thing to be known for.
Yeah.
So like Pete the Assassin sounds good because he had like the whole look, like sort of like the 007 look yesterday.
Dude, the sunglasses, the powder blue jacket.
Yeah.
He looked as rich as he is.
Oh no, he came in looking like straight money. I said it.
Yeah.
I was like, if you have the chat GPT and you're like, money man. It's like
Peter.
Yeah. It's like, I get it. I 100% agree. No, what a run. I mean, I'm excited to see Texas Mike back today. That'll be nice. And look, we'll get into some hands from yesterday before we get into some stuff. But like, yeah, I mean, it's expected. Last year, you know, day one was the day that everyone was like, oh, you know, whatever, like, didn't expect. This year came out firing. Day one, everyone was happy. And, you know, day two slowed down a little bit, and that's fine. We like, you know, when like you finish a workout and you have to go to set number 2, you have to take a breather, you know, and that's where we're at. And now we're ready to rock.
There is something to be said about the reality of poker.
Yeah.
We aren't putting on a fake game. This is a real game. This is real money. And this is actually what happens when you put on these kinds of games. You run into some rough patches. Someone wants to leave. Someone's, you know, not healthy enough to play, which is, you know, by the way, Texas Mike, your health is the most important thing. Like, no one wanted you here if you weren't feeling well.
Absolutely
We're
not.
really happy that you're feeling better. You're coming back today. So that I wanted to say that. But yeah, these are just the realities of such a big game. I can't even imagine what Ryan's going through.
Oh, you have no idea. You run these games at, call it a tenth of the stakes, right? In the private arena, off camera.
Still difficult.
And it's still a fickle game.
Right.
So it's like, and that's no cameras, no like other commitments, right? Where like you have to bring in $1 million in USD. Or like a lot of these other games off camera are run on credit and things like that. We square much easier.
So let me ask you, what are the most fickle things you've seen on some of these private games? Don't name any names. We won't call anyone out.
You know, just like last minute cancellations, last minute, my wife has this thing. Like, you know, things happen all the time. You know, oh, I missed my flight. Like, you know, a lot of these things happen. Everything under the sun, you know, like my side chick, you know, she hit me up. Like, whatever you need. Like, it's just.
I want red M&Ms only.
Yeah. Oh, no. Wait, I've seen. I had someone that told me they needed the blue Jolly Ranchers only. I've been there. I'm just saying, you know. I've been around for a long time.
I want to know who in their right mind grew up in a way that they think these kinds of requests are okay. So
he's a great dude. Like I really like him, but he needs a bowl of only the blue Jolly Ranchers.
I can't. I would just be like, you're not playing in the game. But that's why Ryan's doing his job and I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Tom Dwan for a bit.
Okay.
Because he is poker's hero. He is the mega star. Honestly, I put out a tweet about Tom Dwan, a picture of him. He could be picking his nose, and 100,000 people will like it or view it. Or whatever.
Absolutely. I mean, I grew up watching Tom Dwan, late night NBC poker after dark at 2 a.m. You know, and it's like I was looking forward to watching that, and I was a young man, maybe in my late teens. So there's many people like me that literally that was their view. And so he's a fan favorite. There's not many people like Tom Dwan. There's Tom Dwan, Phil Ivey, Daniel Negreanu, and that might be it. Maybe Antonio. You know, there's like a couple of these guys, and the fact that they're still here playing at the highest level on the biggest stages, people want to watch. People want to see it.
So one thing that, and this is just my casual observation, it seems as though, and like we've seen Tom crush in high stakes poker. Like he's been on TV for, 20 years now.
Yeah.
He looks like his game has adjusted to playing with action players who are constantly trying to bluff him. It seems like he might be playing with a pool of players who are so excited to play with Tom Dwan that they want to get him and then have the bragging rights of getting him. And it seems like he's so used to that because he was, of course he was put in a lot of bad spots. I'm not saying he's calling with ace high every time.
Right.
But I'm saying it looks like, from a casual viewer, which could be completely wrong on my part, that he was calling a lot of hands where maybe it could have been a fold.
Yeah, there is something called the camera effect. I think we spoke about that yesterday. Or it's like you really don't want to get bluffed on camera, and you know you make some lighter calls, and we've all been there while the cameras are rolling. Maybe if the camera's not rolling, you find the fold. With that said, Tom Dwan, when we grew up watching him, all those hands were edited, right? It was a lot. We didn't see every hand like we do on a live stream. Mostly highlights. And he was also playing in a time where he was by far the most aggressive player, and we're seeing highlights. So it was the picture was painted for Durr, and rightfully so. He deserved it, right?
Right.
Doyle Brunson used to say something as well, as to what you were saying. When you are that star, people want the story. Like, I bluffed Doyle. I went to the World Series and I bluffed Doyle. There is that same thing, rest in peace, Doyle Brunson. I went to the biggest game and I got Durr, right? Durr might be that next rendition of the old school guys had Doyle and Chip Reese and those guys. Like, we have Daniel and Durr and Ivy, right? Like, listen, I'm not above it. If I'm sitting here and Phil Ivy's right there and I have a chance to bluff it, that is a story I want to tell.
Right.
Right? So yeah, I mean, there is a little bit of that. And look, all these guys are tough, right? And they're if they have a bluffing combination, they're gonna take it. Even my man Steve.
Our secret main character.
Yeah, secret main character. He's on the low, taking. He takes no prisoners with that little min bag. You get you.
So listen, do you want to get to a hand?
All right, let's do it.
Let's get to a hand. And actually, Steve, Action Dan, and Peter are in this hand. So let's roll which hand is this? This is the King 7, 7 sevens?
Yeah, this hand was insane. Just let me know when.
Yeah, let's roll the hand and then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Brought to you by High Stakes Poker Productions. We pick up the action with Dan raising to 11,000 with sevens. Peter with King 7 of diamonds.
How old is your kid? 16 months. You have a new, yeah. Getting any sleep yet?
Honestly, like, the sleeping was pretty good overall.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
What a cooler. What a cooler. Case 7 out there. Action Dan with a set of sevens. Peter with top 2. Oh, that's crazy. How does it happen? King 7-4, 2 hearts out there, so a pretty wet board. Peter with top 2. Action Dan with a set of sevens. That's the case 7. And this pot already 51,000, 18,000 to call. And this could be one of the biggest pots of the night, depending on how it plays out. And Peter is raised to 68,000. Back over to Action Dan. Everything has gone Peter's way the first 2 days until now. Action Dan makes the call, $169,000 in the pot. A 4 on the turn. Pretty crazy, as we just saw 6-4 fold. Now, Peter can still beat ace-king, king-queen, but he does lose to aces. He obviously also loses to a 4. But Peter bets 150,000. Action Dan is only
When I grow up, I want to be like Peter.
losing to pocket kings or pocket 4s.
Issuing total devastation left, right, center.
And Action Dan makes the call. $469,000 in the pot. Here's the river. Unbelievable. Oh my. I spoke too soon. It just continues to go well for Peter as he runs as hot as the sun. How does he do it? What a sick spot. Action Dan could have, should have won an enormous pot. But somehow Peter wriggles free, and now we have a $719,000 pot, $250,000 to call. And Action Dan can just beat a bluff. I mean, he can only beat a bluff.
His hand is becoming crazy.
But then I see him, just tired.
Somehow, some way, Peter finds a king on the river, and he's going to get paid. A pot just under $1 million, and look at that smile. Oh, unreal. Steve just shaking his head. King 7 versus 7s. Steve did fold a 4, by the way.
Just watch the stream.
Yeah, I watch the stream.
Well, what a hand.
Pretty standard.
Yeah, I mean, you know, boat over boat, no problem. All right, so walk us through the hand real quick, and we'll break down each street.
Okay, so Steve's in the big blind. Action Dan is Action Dan's in the small blind, right? No, Steve's in the. This is the one
so this is
where
what
we
Steve bought the button.
Steve bought the button. That's what we were trying to figure out.
That's what it looks like.
Because we were looking at the weather report.
Yeah, the famous weather report. They hire me to do the weather report every time. I crush it. You guys don't even understand how much I enjoy doing it. It's one of the best parts of my job, you know.
Especially during action.
Oh yeah, like when you cut away from like great conversation to like for me to do the weather report, it really makes me appreciate how amazing South California is, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
You want to tell us a little bit more about the weather? Okay, let's get back to this hand. So we figured it out that Action Dan bought the button or bought
Steve bought the button.
Steve bought the button.
Correct.
Okay, so he's got 6-4. So Action Dan raises to 11K with pocket 7s. Peter on the button calls with King 7 diamonds, and Steve in the big blind 6-4 off calls.
Yeah.
Flop is something for everybody. King 7-4. Steve checks. Dan bets 18K.
Yeah.
Peter raises to 68K. The crazy part about this whole thing is Steve in this hand. Because had Steve called the flop, he would have turned another 4, and all hell would have broken loose 3 ways.
Right. The way this hand really explodes, which is hypothetically, is if Peter just calls, then that might bring in Steve with the bottom pair trip draw, which now actually
trip draw. That's what we usually call it.
Yeah, the bottom pair trip draw, and then Steve like bangs home the bottom pair trip draw, but it's dead to Action Dan. But luckily for him, the main character of the show wiggles his way out of there.
I think he would have folded river though.
Yeah, maybe, but maybe he check raised his turn, etc. But but okay, nonetheless, Peter raises, and that is a really good situation for Dan, of course, because he's basically holding the nuts. Pocket kings here is not a hand he's really concerned about. So he's just basically holding the nuts here in a really favorable situation. So he can choose to flop 3-bet, but I think the standard play here is to mostly call.
Let's talk about the probability, like from Steve's or Action Dan's perspective, of like Peter holding specifically King 7. If he would be holding the Case 7.
Yeah. Yeah, basically most of Peter's King 7s are going to be King 7 suited, so he's only up against one combo, and that is very rare. Like most of the time, what Dan is expecting to see here when he faces flop raise is some frequency of King Queen, maybe a slow played Ace King, which is perfectly fine at this stack depth. You don't have to pure 3-bet Ace King, so you're going to see. Some low frequency King Queen, especially with backdoor flush draw, low frequency, low frequency Ace King, and then a ton of hands like 5-6, potentially hands like 4-5 suited that are bluffing. So like 4-5 suited is actually a nice combo to like bluff this in this hand. Blocking a set, wrapping around the 7 and the 4 with your 5 plus backdoor flush draw. You can run a multiple street bluff, especially at this stack depth, which Peter is capable. Like the guy's mixing it up. So those are the majority of hands. And that's the reason why you mostly don't flop 3-bet is because Peter's very likely to fold a hand like King Queen suited. I would assume facing that much action. So calling is good, but yeah, he's up against. He basically has the nuts, like I said.
Yeah. So Peter raises. Steve folds. Dan calls. We all saw that. 4 of diamonds on the turn.
Yeah.
Doesn't change much for either of them, or does it?
Well, it's a good hand for Dan. It's a good situation for Dan. He only now loses to quads, which will exist. 4s will raise the flop and make quads, but you're not really like, you're resigned to your fate. And now hands like, 7, maybe the rare 7-6 combo that was raising is now dead. Hands like King Queen, are basically dead again, but feel pretty good about the situation they're in. So Dan is in a very, very, very favorable situation in this spot the majority of the time. Again, he basically has the nuts. And for Peter, it changes only a little bit in that now he loses to aces. So that is a hand that is in Dan's range. He's raising from early position. Like, he certainly could have aces. He would bet the flop. He would call your raise. So you lose to aces. That's a thing. That is a little bit concerning.
On the turn, Dan checks, Peter bets 150, and Dan just calls.
Yeah.
Is a check raise ever a thing there with the boat?
Not with your exact hand, because your opponent is very likely to be, like I said, there are the bluff combos here, like the 5-6, the 7-6, the, just like the random backdoor flush draw, ace jack suited that raises flop, wrapping around the king.
You just don't want to get rid of your worst.
Yeah, you're basically like, look, if he has King 7 or a bluff, like he's very likely to bet. If he has Ace King, he's very likely to consider betting at least, right? So this is a situation where you mostly play call. You're also protecting some of your worst hands. So like hands like Ace King and Aces are very likely not to check raise the turn. Mm-hmm. So you want to play aces, Ace King, similarly to how you're playing 7s in this spot. So that's why he's mostly playing call. Like Dan's very, very good,
So the river is the king of hearts.
Yeah, what the hell's that? Where did they find that card?
What the hell, man?
Yeah, that one is just like weird. Like, one of the things I say in the booth is like, where did they find that card? And it's like it's true. Like, this was looking amazing for our friend Dan, but the star Peter is just, pushing Pete.
And we've never seen this in poker.
Yeah.
Except all the time.
I mean, it's a terrible situation for Action Dan here. He's now losing to the Ace-King combos. He's now losing to the King-Queen suited combos that I don't think the King-Queen suited combo exists as much, but the Ace-King I think does exist, and it's just unfortunate. And I think what he's thinking now is obviously he now has a bluff catcher. So his hand went from the nuts to a bluff catcher, which is an awful feeling.
Right, so I'm just curious, because the viewers at home love your commentary and your analysis. If Dan, if Dan's got to be thinking that he's beating the majority of the range of Peter, because there's really 3 hands that are going to beat him, right? There's 4s, there's kings, and then there's king 7, which is...
No, well, he loses to any king now.
Oh, yeah.
Because his king's full of 4s.
Yeah, so I guess...
Yeah, he's just losing to any king, which is like, that's why his hand became so, I don't want to say weak, but it downgraded in value significantly on the river.
Yeah.
And that is just a very awful feeling.
But
He was in a situation where he was willing to play for stacks and now has a bluff catcher. So that's basically one of the worst feelings, excuse me.
So you're just check calling most bets.
You're checking and evaluating. So you're checking, and then when he bets, you're doing 2 things. One, you're evaluating his bet size. What does the bet size mean? So when he faces a bet, it's like, okay, at what frequency does my opponent have bluffs here? Or does he have worse value? I don't think he has worse value. I don't think that Peter's ever betting a 4.
So the pot was 319,000,
Yeah.
and Peter bets 250,000.
Right, so that's never a 4, because the reason it's never a 4 is because Dan can easily have a king. He has a ton of ace king, a ton of king queen suited that is going to play exactly this way. So Peter's very likely to just like check, right? So if he had like the 4-5 suited bluff that we were kind of talking about on the flop that turned a 4, now on the river he's just going to check, right? So he doesn't have a 4. So it's like, okay, does he have enough bluffs here? I mean, I don't know. I don't think so. But that's up to Dan to decide. He's playing with him every day.
So let me ask you this. This is a consideration of mine. I feel like a lot of people do not have the guts to bluff rivers. Like a lot of your bluffs are going to be early on, and then they give up. And I know this is a higher stakes game.
Yeah.
Is it pretty common in these high stakes to have river bluffs?
I mean, we saw Doug Polk run a huge bluff with the 5-4 of spades last year. Texas Mike is banging it in with the 10 deuce offsuit. Right. You know, just like, you know, kudos to him. You know, our rest in peace Doyle Brunson, of course. So players are capable. That is, when you reach these levels, players are capable. Now, not all of them are capable as much as the next person. So the decision on river here solely comes down to at what frequency does my opponent have hands like 5-6 and the like, right? There's other hands similar to that, maybe like other gut shots, etc. And Dan thought that it was enough, and he called. And you know, okay.
Like, yeah, it's just a cooler. It's kind of a setup hand in a way.
It's certainly a cooler. Yeah. On the river, it's a little bit closer, but the decision is still the same. Does my opponent have enough bluffs here? And if you think the answer is yes, then you click the call button. And Dan thought the answer was yes, and unfortunately, he was wrong that time. Well, look, there's a difference between being wrong and incorrect in this situation. Like, you could be wrong this time, but you can still be right in terms of, like, he does have those hands. You just got unlucky to see the value side.
What you're saying is if we ran the hand 100 times,
yeah,
with Peter's range the way it is,
yeah, Dan is betting that
his call is good most of the time.
Dan thinks so, yes. Dan thinks so. Like, I don't want to impart my thing, because like it's between them, and like he's playing with Peter a lot more, and he might be seeing things I'm not seeing, right? So Dan believes that if we ran it, you know, infinity, this call's making money because his opponent has enough bluffs to justify it, and that's fine. Yeah.
But instead,
he gets shown the absolute nuts.
And hates it.
And hates it. You know, and that sucks. You know, Dan lost a millie ball yesterday. You know, tapped the table twice. You know, absolutely took it on the chin. Like, no complaints. I believe he's back today, and I wish him. You know, I wish he runs hot.
I guess he's not coming back today.
Okay, he's not coming back today, but you know, he'll be back on the Hustler Casino Felt. I'm sure. You know, and a little bit of an uphill battle, but you know, we've all been there.
I mean, his name's Action Dan. He's gonna be back.
Yeah, he's gonna be back. He's gonna be back. And one of the nicest guys that I've met on the Felt, an absolute killer, you know, for sure. He kills you with a smile. It's
Are you in love with him? Is that what's happening?
You know, sure.
Okay, let's go to our next hand. Because there were two big hands. And this is the one between Tom and Peter, and Doug ended up folding out of his hand.
Okay.
So this is Tom with the Jack-8 and Peter with the Queen-10. Do you guys have the clip ready? Yeah, they've got it ready.
Okay, sweet.
I really thought you were going to call when you said 30 more of these, huh? And I was like, oh, goddamn. I was like, here it comes. I call.
Get a raise here from Hans, whatever you want to call the guy. The guy with the beautiful hands, clearly, as we look at a queen high flop. Got an action flop here for sure. Tom Dwan has flopped a straight. Peter with top 2. We have been kind of waiting for our first action flop of the day, and we've got one. Tom Dwan, who was our biggest loser yesterday, up against the biggest winner, Peter, and it's 2 pair versus the straight. And Doug Polk is the one raising. For what it's worth, Doug is not drawing dead. Peter makes the call. 92,500 in the pot. Action back over to Dwan. Dwan makes the call, $119,000 in the pot. Blank on the turn. Dwan now 83% to win the hand if it goes to showdown. Peter checks it. Oh, wow. Peter ran like a god yesterday, and he continues. He checks back the turn and fills up on the river. Dwan betting for value here. He has no reason to think that his straight isn't good. And he bets 72,000, and Peter has the stones. He's got the absolute nutter balls. 191,000 over to Peter. Just a question of how much does he raise, and can Dwan get away from it?
Front row. We're sitting courtside.
And Peter checking back the turn, going to be incredibly difficult to put him on a full house right now. Each one of those purple chips, there's 25K each.
Huh.
There's the reaction from Dwan. Yeah. After just a brutal day yesterday, it continues in day two.
What's going on?
$415,000 pot. Dwan with the straight.
My brain's not working enough to find a language.
What a cagey check back from Peter.
Picking up today where we left off yesterday, huh?
Yeah. Just Peter's raising the river. I'm in a spot where, like, how can he have it? But he's got to have it. And then...
How can he have it? But he's got to have it.
What? How much more is it? 152?
152,000 back to Dwan. Pot is 415.
I think it's 152. Right?
152.
How much is in there? 32 plus 20, 116.
Dwan trying to figure out the odds here. He's getting
116.
less than 3 to 1, maybe 2.7 to 1. Rough math.
152 more. Oh. You don't have a set, right? Do you really have Queen 10 or Queen 9? I feel like you check it. I don't feel like you check it. I feel like I'm never good, but how can I be beat? What the fuck? Can you have like ace queen? Maybe? I don't think so. Triple cheese, sorry. Ooh, 1 second. 1 minute.
Dwan takes a lot of heat for taking a lot of time, but this is a difficult spot. Peter, an absolute statue.
I just don't feel like he checks too far. Checks so fast, too. Checks so fast.
There's the call.
Oh, yeah.
And a little bit of a slow roll as he says nuts.
Oh, my Lord.
And a $567,000 pot, the biggest pot of the night so far. Right where we left off, exactly. Tom Dwan now down about 1.2 million over the last 2 days.
What time does the pregame actually start?
I don't know, but we're live.
Okay, well, all right. Well, it says 1:30 on the thing, so if you guys are listening to us, thank you for waiting.
So, crazy hand, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Peter, the assassin, in the hand. Peter with Queen 10. So, we'll start it off. Tom's in the big blind.
So we're sticking to the assassin, huh? Okay. Got
Jack
it.
8. I mean, what do you
I like it. I
call
like it.
pumpkin
I like
eater?
it. I like it.
Doug's in the straddle with King 8 of hearts. Hands in the hijack goes upstairs to 5K with Ace 9 suited. And Peter in the cutoff calls. Everyone else calls. Flop is Queen 10, 9, rainbow. Tom flops the joint, but he's out of position.
Okay. Rewind me the positions one more time, please.
Tom is in the big blind.
Okay.
Doug is in the straddle.
Okay, so
Hands in the hijack. Peter in the cutoff.
got it. Okay, so hands begins with a raise, I assume?
Hands, yeah, he raises it up to 5K. Everyone calls.
Got it. Got it. Perfect.
We're good.
Yeah.
Queen 10, 9. Tom flops the joint.
Yeah, very dynamic board on a four-way pot. A lot of people are going to have a piece of equity here. You know, even the weakest hands, such as Doug, you know, has a gutter. You know, so yeah. I mean, actually, Doug has a very reasonable hand to like consider popping off with if he wants to get aggressive. But okay, continue.
Yeah, so it checks to Peter. Peter bets 6K. Tom calls. Doug raises to 32K.
Yeah, I knew it. I knew it.
Is
Yeah.
it hashtag standard with a gut shot in this spot?
It's a really good combo to try this, right? You block the nuts. You also block the second nuts, which is Jack 8, right? So you block some very significant hands here. I assume he has backdoor flush draw to go with it, which is very
yes.
natural. Yeah, it's very solver approved combination from Mr. Doug Polk. Very good.
UpStreetPoker.com.
Yeah, sure.
Peter calls, Tom calls, and of course Hans is out of there.
Yeah.
Turn is a 4 of clubs.
Yeah, I think at this point, once you get called in 2 spots, Doug has a decision of, do I really want to launch it with this hand? Probably not, I guess. Like, yeah, he'd probably have better combinations. Like Jack 9 would be better. Maybe just King 9 actually is better. King 9 is nice. King 9 is a nice combo. It unblocks all the Jack X's that call the check raise, call the turn, and then fold the river. So King 9, it blocks the nuts while unblocking hands that call, fold. So King 9 would be better. That's probably one of the only ones that maybe he's launching it with. King 8 is also fine, but probably not doing it.
Let me ask you about Tom. He's out of position.
Yeah.
The turn card is pretty safe for his hand.
Yeah.
Checking still ideal. I know he wasn't the original raiser.
Yeah, I mean, because he's going to get value from 2 regions of hands. He obviously loses to King Jack, which he's resigned to pretty much lose a big pot to that. But Doug will be betting hands still like pocket 9s for value, right? That isn't always going to 3-bet pre-flop because you're so deep. So he gets value from worse value hands. And then he also gets value from the bluffing region, which is going to be hands like the hand class that Doug has, which is like gutters that block the nuts, gutters that block the nuts, plus 2-pair combinations like that, King 8, King 9, very nice hand. So his hand, if he starts really piling in $1 million, he's going to be shown King Jack. And the thing with King Jack is that Doug at this stack depth in the blinds versus Peter very likely has at least 12 combinations of King Jack, because I don't think he's going to 3-bet King Jack offsuit too often. Might 3-bet King Jack suited. So out of this,
You're talking about pre-flop?
Pre-flop, right? So this all like
Right.
Like he's still.
That was going to be my next question to you.
Right. Doug still has at least the 12 combinations of the offsuit King Jack.
That he just calls with?
Yes. I think that he's probably squeezing the King Jack suited combos probably a lot, but the King Jack offsuit combos probably not at this stack depth. So there's 12 combos of King Jack here that exist that Tom has to be concerned about, right? So he can't just like pile in $1 million. He's going to be shown King Jack only when that happens.
Well, they all check the turn.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it makes sense. Queen 10, given the pre-flop, given the flop action, could consider a bet, but not mandatory. Could check back. He still loses to some sets. Still loses to Jack 8. You could bet for value / protection, but checking is definitely going to be in there as well.
It feels like a very good check.
It's a nice check also because
it's multi-way too.
Well, what allows this check to also do is protect your check back range, because he's going to have hands like Queen Jack that want to bet the flop, call, but then, want to check the turn. So he can't just always, bet his good hands and then check the bad hands or the medium hands, because then Doug is good enough to just overbet the river, and now you're just sitting there with like Queen Jack and you're just like, I hate my life. Whereas like, if you check back and the river's a brick and you face a big bet, you have an easy decision. You just click the call button and you just win money, right? So yeah, I like the check back. It's probably not a full frequency check back, but it's a nice check back for it to be in there.
River, guess what it is? A queen of hearts.
Oh, Peter makes a boat.
Oh did Peter make a boat?
Of course he did.
What? No, not Peter.
Not top boat again. Okay. No problem.
Yeah, so...
yeah, very bad card for Dwan. Very, very bad card for Dwan.
Except Tom decides to lead. Now, why is he leading in this spot?
He thinks that his opponents have a fair chunk of Queen X's, maybe hands like Queen Jack, like we mentioned. The thing that he really needs to be concerned about is that Doug doesn't really have single queens here. So the value range he's targeting are hands like King Queen, Queen Jack, etc. the frequency in which Doug actually has a single queen is very low. Doug either is his queens will be 2-pair queens that made a boat. He'll also have like, you know, some sets, I guess, maybe that check raise check, but maybe not that much. But he's repping like kind of polar. So when he check raises flop, checks turn, his range is very polarized. So he either has like automatic hands or nothing. And maybe a little bit of queen 10, queen 9. Queen 9 is a little thin, but sure. And then when he has like 10-9, Doug is sick enough to like put the money in as a bluff, blocking all the boats. So like this range you're betting into of Doug is concerning for you with this hand.
I gotta wrap it up because they're telling me we gotta talk about the lineup for today.
Okay, let's wrap it up.
But I want to get to the river. Tom leads for 72K.
Yeah.
Peter raises to 224K.
Yeah.
And he's getting.
Yeah.
I honestly.
Yeah, he's getting a pretty decent price, but nonetheless, like the decision is quick. Does Peter raise with a single queen here? If the answer is yes, then you click call. If the answer is no, then you have to decide if he's bluffing enough, which is probably not, then you fold. But if you think that he can just have a queen, like ace queen, then you have to call.
Or he's Peter and he just has it.
Oh, he has a boat. Is Peter? Is Peter? Is Peter boat Peter?
Peter Boat Peter. New name. Peter Boat Peter.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about today's lineup.
Yeah, sick lineup. Let me pull it up on my phone so I don't forget anybody. Okay, so we have Dur's back.
I just like pray to the poker gods that he gets a little bit back because he's just been getting dragged.
Yeah. Okay, Dur's in. Brandon Steven is in. New addition to the game. Long-time high stakes player. You know, owns a bunch of car dealerships. You know, very well known around the scene. I'm excited. He mixes it up, so he's in there. Texas Mike back in the building, feeling better. Everyone's very excited to see him play. I am very excited to see him play.
Awesome person off and on the felt.
Yeah, he's so nice. Like,
so nice.
Such a nice guy. Like, look, has a surgically repaired heart. He's fucking playing for the glory. Like, I have a surgically repaired heart. I'm fucking check raising the shit out of you. Like,
I don't even know why he looks at his hands, to be honest with you. He could just win.
No, and just like very loved by everyone. I've never seen anyone say anything.
All of us.
Yeah. And look, the star of the show, like everybody's talking about like the real star, but like, the freaking Steve is back. Okay, Steve is back in the middle of huge hands. He just takes his shirt off. He don't care. Like there's a $1 million pot about to happen. He's like, okay, you know.
Confessions will be made to Steve today, Father Steve.
Steve the father. But look.
Also, if anyone ends up in jail, he's an ex-lawyer.
Not only that, but like he's very concerned with the things that are important. He wants to know how much it costs to replace the felt every day.
Yeah, I heard him.
He's like, who's paying for this felt? Like,
do we have the budget?
Yeah, like I'm like, what is going on? But anyway.
Are you guys raking enough?
Yeah. Really? So he has to come and drop the Who
Blue
pays?
Felt Day. Steve, Blue Felt Day.
Blue
we went
Felt
red,
Day.
green, now we're blue.
Yeah. And then so Steve is in. Alan, sorry. Mr. Alan Keating. I wanted to make sure I said the whole thing.
Mr. Keating, what do you say about him?
I mean, look.
Mr. Atherton is what we should call him.
The man is an absolute just juggernaut on this felt. Like, the people want to watch him play. I watch as a fan, you know, like he's just, you know, this is.
Say he likes to get in the streets a little bit. He likes the drama. He likes to go on Twitter Spaces.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. He's in it. He wants. This is what I love about Keating. All right. You know, the couple times that I've had a little bit of discussion with him, he plays to see who you are as a person. He's like, look, you know what's great about playing high stakes? How often can you like really put a CEO to the test?
Right.
Like, you know, like, oh, you're the CEO of DoorDash? Here's $2 million bet. And the CEO's like, oh man, this is tough.
He'll make you feel like you're playing in your underwear.
Yeah.
Like, he'll make you feel so uncomfortable.
Yeah, and that's what he plays for. You know, he's like, look, Like, I love Stanley Tang, but like, I love putting a big bet out there and watching to see how he reacts.
And people who play in these stakes love being put in the blender like that.
These guys
not
are
fun if it's
they're
easy.
competitors. No, it needs to sting.
Right.
It needs to sting. That's, so, and I love that about Keating. He plays for that, and an absolute just juggernaut of a player. There's another player that I'm not allowed to say, but look, I have experience with him, and it's just gonna be a night. It's gonna be a night.
We have a player coming in that is still a surprise.
It's still a surprise. Yeah, I can't. I'm not allowed to discuss.
Ryan's always up to something.
He's always up to something. I'm not allowed to discuss, but the game will be fire. It will go long. I don't know how long it'll go today, but I'm excited
Predictions.
about it.
Biggest pot, biggest play, whatever prediction you want.
I think Durr, potentially makes a comeback today. I think he's due. He's due.
Due theory.
Due theory is strong with Durr. Looking forward to it. Honestly, I think we see an over $2 million pot today. I am very, very confident in that one. Like, it's just, it's gonna happen.
I'm gonna be like Price is Right, 2.1. 2.1.
No, I think we see like two. I hope we see 2.5, but I'm really like, if I was betting today, obviously tomorrow is gonna be
Tomorrow's
fire.
our betting day.
Yeah, tomorrow's betting day, but I think today we crossed 2 million. I'm pretty good on that.
Yeah,
I hope so. And look, I'm hoping that Tuck gets tired, because I want to
get in the streets.
I want to get the phone call from Ryan and be like, look, man, we need you. The game's going long. Can you come in? I'll be like, hell yeah, I'm here to talk shit. Let's go. Like,
let's get the doom zoom.
Let's get the doom zoom. Who's stuck? Doors are locked.
Lock the doors.
Nobody's hitting or running today. We don't give a fuck.
Security's standing right there.
Security's right there.
Yeah,
You can't leave. You can't leave. You can't.
I loved when Charlie looked that way. You're like, what are you looking at?
Oh,
There's
yeah.
nothing over there.
Yeah. Because he was tilted, so he was like looking away. I'm like, what are you looking at? Yeah, no, but it's gonna be a fun night. I'm really excited about it.
Sorry, what'd you guys say? Okay, we gotta wrap it up. As much as we'd love to talk all day about this, we gotta wrap it up.
No, thank you all for joining. I mean, this is gonna be fire. I'm looking forward to the game.
Next
Thank you,
2
Veronica.
days are gonna be crazy.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Let's do
So
it.
you're gonna stay in the house, right? We're gonna be in the VIP area.
I'm excited. I'm gonna be here.
Play some cash.
I'm play some cash. I'm gonna wait for the phone call. I know Tuck is gonna get tired around 11 p.m. and then
Tuck's an old man. Of course he's gonna get tired.
Tuck is gonna get tired. All right, Tuck, tap out.
He's got kids. He's got family to feed. He's got dogs.
That's all good.
He's got to go home by 8 p.m. and sit by the fire.
Yeah, Tuck, don't worry, I got it.
He knits at
He's
night,
a knit. He's a knit in the poker table, knit at home.
All right, thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you in the live stream.
Yeah,
I'll
see you in chat.
We'll see you in the chat.
Chat Pro, slow roll, never fold. Raise it up. Chat Pro, slow roll, never fold.
Raise it up.
Chat Pro, slow roll, never fold. Slow roll, never fold. Slow roll, never fold.
Raise it up. Raise it up.
Chat Pro.